Hey everyone, welcome to WittCode. In this video, I'm going to show you how to connect a custom-built React application to an Express server. So, as a demonstration of what we're going to build, this here is a React application that we built customly and was also served up with an Express server. And also, this API that we're returning, which is just some cheese types, which we can see here, is also returned from our Express server. So if we look, this is what we're going to build. Our Express server has a route called -cheese that our app component makes a call to and then returns or lists out all these cheeses, which is what this is here. And not only that, but the actual React app itself, so which is this HTML file with this client JavaScript file, is also served up by Express, which is done with this little code here. And not only this, but this application has live reloading. So let me pull this over here and let's change this to also return an h1 tag saying I love cheese. And if we save, we get that instantly reloaded and placed out here. So I love cheese a lot, and auto refreshes the page and everything. And also our Express server does the same. So say we have this array of cheeses. If we duplicate this array, so say I just paste in some more, our NodeMon server will recompile or will be run, our Webpack will be recompiled. And now if we refresh the page to get these new cheeses, we get all of them listed out. So we've tripled the size of our array, and we can double check this also inside this tab by looking at what's returned from Express. But so this is what we're going to be building in this video. So combining Express and React is great as we can use the Express server to serve up the React app and also handle any API requests that the React app sends. We can make all this possible by using the module bundler Webpack. In fact, combining Webpack and Express provides live reloading and hot module replacement when developing an application. These are features that are highly desired in popular React frameworks. And actually, Webpack has an NPM package called Webpack Dev Server that provides both hot module replacement and live reloading, but under the hood, this server is simply an Express server. Furthermore, using the Webpack Dev Server often requires an Express server as well, with the Webpack Dev Server serving the static content while other requests are proxied to a different Express server. A simpler scenario is to have one Express server do everything. To begin, let's initialize this project. So we're going to do npm init es6-y to create a package.json file with the type set to module. Next, let's install both Webpack and Webpack CLI as development dependencies. I forgot to tag on the I. So here they are under dev dependencies, and specifically, Webpack will allow us to turn our React code into JavaScript code that the browser understands. However, for it to do this, we need to install some Babel libraries. Install them with npm, and these are Babel Loader, Babel Preset React, and Babel Preset env. And so real quick, a loader here, so a loader is a function that Webpack uses to convert code from one form to another. Webpack will use this Babel Loader here to convert JSX code to code that the browser understands. Now let's create a Webpack configuration file, and we'll call it .cjs because it's going to use common JS syntax. And now let's just fill in this file. Just going to paste some code in. And so what this file does is it's a configuration for Webpack. Mode here is the mode to bundle the application in, which is development. Entry right here is the entry point to start the bundling process, which for us will be basically the entry point into our React application. Target is the environment we'll be working in, and because this will bundle a React application, it will be in the browser. File name here is the name of the outputted bundled code, which we will call client.js. Path is the directory to place the bundle, and we're going to put it in a folder called dist. And public path here tells Webpack where to output the bundled files to, which for us is just going to be this root location on our Express server, and we'll see that later on. Next, we have this rules object here, and so this rules key accepts an array of rule objects. So this is a rule object right here, and a rule object tells Webpack how to handle a certain module. The rule object in this instance tells Webpack to pass any file ending in .js or .jsx, excluding those in the node modules folder through this Babel loader. And we'll also use these presets here, which basically configure this Babel loader to be able to turn React code into JavaScript code and so on. And we also need to escape this here. And the reason we want to escape this dot is because this is regex right here. And without escaping it, this dot means any character, whereas if we escape it, it means just the dot, because we want ending in .js or .jsx. But so this is the only configuration for Webpack we need to create our application. Now let's actually create our React app. So first, let's install the necessary libraries, which are React and React DOM. Next, let's create a source directory to, of course, hold our source code. And in this source directory, we're going to have a client directory, which will be our React application. At the top level of that, we'll have index.jsx, index.html, also a components directory to hold our components, and within there, an app.jsx. So first, let's fill in our index.html file, which will basically be the bare bones to hold our React app. So the most important part of this here is this div with the ID root. That is where our React application will go. And next, let's fill in index.jsx to be the glue between our React app and the DOM. So index.jsx, paste this in here. And this code simply renders our React application into the div element with the ID root, which is this here. And now let's fill in our app component. So right here. And so our app component, what it does is it makes an API call to our Express server to retrieve a list of cheeses. And so note, we're going to actually create this API on the Express server. And this is also the Express server that serves up this React application. But so what we do is we have some state of cheeses, then we have a use effect, and we set the cheese data to be what our Express server returns. And then we return that information. But that's all we need for our Express app. Now let me close out a few of these. And now let's begin working with our Express application. And to start, let's just install Express with npm express. Now let's create a file at the top level of our source folder called server.js. So this is going to hold our Express application. So here's our React app, and here's our Express app. And now let's import Express and create our APIs. So what this does is we just import Express. We specify the port to be 1234, which is inside our app component. That's where we're sending this request, will be this route right here. And what we do is we return a JSON array with a status of 200 containing some cheese names and descriptions. And then we just listen on the specified port. So now is where we're going to try and get Webpack and Express to work together. And the way we're going to do this is using the npm package Webpack dev middleware. So Webpack dev middleware like this. And we actually install this as a development dependency, as this is used for development. Oh, did I do that correctly? As this is used for development and not for out in production. But so what this Webpack dev middleware package does is it emits files processed by Webpack to a server. And for us, this middleware will emit our bundled React application to our Express server. So now what we need to do is we need to import this middleware into our server file along with some other Webpack things. So at the top level here, we import Webpack, the Webpack dev middleware, and also our Webpack configuration. And so as Webpack dev middleware is an Express middleware, it can be mounted in the Express server. So specifically, we're going to bind it as application level middleware. So it'll make more sense here. We use app.use and we bind it like this. And note how we don't pass any route to this app.use, as in this case, we want it to be called each time a request is sent to the server. And so the Webpack dev middleware here takes two arguments. And the first is a Webpack compiler. And we can actually get that if we call imported Webpack like a function. So when we import Webpack, we can call it like a function, which returns a Webpack compiler. And then we can configure this Webpack compiler by passing it a Webpack configuration object. And what this is our Webpack config here. So we'll just pass this in here. And now we have a configured Webpack compiler. And then we simply need to pass the Webpack compiler into this dev middleware. And we also provide a second argument here, which are configuration options. And the one we want, and actually I put this in the wrong place, it's inside here. So we have a second option here, which is configuration, and the one we want is public path. And what we set that to is our Webpack configurations public path. So remember, this is to make sure that our Webpack dev middleware can find the outputted bundle, and the outputted bundle is our React app. In other words, though, we need this value, so this public path key, to match what's inside our Webpack file, which is this here. So for example, if we change this to cheese, or say we already have a cheese route, if we change this to pizza, then our React app would be served at -pizza. But if we keep it like, and that would also be applied here, but we're going to keep it as the root path. So we're getting pretty close to being done now, but what we want to do now is add hot module replacement. And so hot module replacement is used to get our application to reload with changes. So what hot module replacement does is it detects module changes in an actively running application. And this makes the development process more efficient, as it only updates what has changed and instantly updates the browser with the modifications. And we can enable HMR, or hot module replacement, in a custom Express server by using the npm package Webpack hot middleware, and then we can install that as a development dependency as well. And now, like the other ones, let's import this into our Express server, so at the top level. And next, we need to add this middleware to the Express server as an application middleware, just like we did with our Webpack dev middleware. So pass this right here. And so we can see the Webpack dev middleware, or hot middleware, also returns a function, which we call here, and where accepts the first argument is a Webpack compiler. And once again, options are passed as the second argument. And so we also need to change our Webpack configuration to notify Webpack about this HMR, or hot module replacement. And we do this with the plugins key, and we specify right here, we specify webpack.hotmodule replacement plugin. And so this essentially, what this does here is it enables Webpack to perform HMR. And finally, we also need to alter our Webpack entry point a bit to contain the Webpack hot middleware. So our entry point here, we need to change it slightly. So now this code right here configures our Express server to receive a notification when Webpack builds the client bundle. In other words, when our React application is updated, our Express server will be notified of this, causing it to serve up this new bundle. We also tag on, this here is actually a configuration option, reload to, or reload equals true. And it's an option that auto reloads the browser page when Webpack gets stuck. But so this is all we have to do to get our Express server working with Webpack. Now, let's just create a simple script to run this application inside package.json. So inside here, under scripts, let's actually first install nodemon as a development dependency. So not only can we have hot reloading on our React application, but also when we make server changes. So now let's add a script, a start script, to run our server file, which is simply just nodemon.-source server.js. And now all we need to do to run this application, hope it works, is just run npm start. And so if we look at the output of our console, we can see our client.js was built. We can see that our server is listening on port 1234, and also that Webpack has compiled our React app successfully. So now all we need to do is see if it works. So we'll go to localhost 1234, and what we get is a cannot get root. So if we go back in here, let's try and figure out why that is. And so after looking through this code, the reason that we can't find root, so when we call localhost and we get root, is because we haven't actually set up our index.html file to be served up in our bundle. And so what we need to do is import a plugin called the HTML Webpack plugin and install that as a development dependency, and then import it in here. So HTML Webpack plugin, and then inside our plugins, we add this here. And what we provide to it is the location of our index.html file. So now that Webpack has this, it'll apply our React code to it and then serve up this index.html file. So now if we run this again, so npm start, let's hope it works this time. So we go here and we type in enter. And what do you know? Looks like everything's working. So if we look here, we get all our cheeses returned from the Express server. So that comes from this API right here. And what's great is this is also serving up our React app itself. So inside network, if we zoom in, we have our client.js, which is our React app. We have some abstracted away Webpack HMR functionality. We have our cheese API, which we can see returns the ones that we listed. And then we have our index.html, which this is our React app appended to it. And here's the root. And this is what wasn't being served up by our Express server because we didn't install that plugin and why things weren't working. But so this is my video on connecting a custom React app to an Express server, and also I guess serving up a custom React app with Express. I want to thank you for liking and subscribing today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try and get back to you. But besides that, have a good one.